Hey Facebook friends, I want to acknowledge the passing of a truly remarkable man today, and that is the very Reverend James Parks Morton. He was a very close personal friend and someone that without the influence of the Memnosyne Institute would not have been what it has become. Back behind me you can see this beautiful area and way back when Joshua and I first began the Memnosyne Institute, it hadn't even gotten its 501c3 yet. I was calling around and trying to get people to come in and join us, and we ended up with 45 spiritual leaders from all around the world, Eastern, Western, Indigenous, New Age, you name it, we had it. And I wanted to have some Christian community, especially a diversity of Christian community, and we needed some from the Episcopal Church. And my good friend Isaac Tigrett immediately said, well, who you want is the very Reverend James Parks Morton. And he explained to me why, and I certainly learned later on. Not only was the very Reverend James Parks Morton good friends with people like Carl Sagan, not only was he somebody who had worked closely with the UN and creating the Chapel for Peace and whatnot, but he was a man that when Martin Luther King was fighting for integration, he had found out that the Episcopal Church was not allowing black men to become ministers. So he called up Jim and asked him, will you fight to integrate the Episcopal Church so that black men can become ministers? And Jim, of course, said yes. Those of you that have seen the incredible movie Selma probably saw the scene where there are two white men and one sadly gets killed by the Ku Klux Klan. The other, despite having all the reasons to fear from his friend being killed the night before, still walks across that bridge. Well, that person walking across the bridge was the very Reverend James Parks Morton. Jim fought and did win, getting the Episcopalian Church to become integrated here in the United States of America. Not only that, but back in the late 50s, early 60s, when the Shinto were invited by the Museum of Art up in New York, and the Museum of Art had accidentally double booked. They needed a place real fast to put the Shinto exhibition, and they ended up putting it at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine, where at the time Jim was in charge of. He was the dean of that church. And when he put the exhibition up, the Shinto said, well, since this is a since it's the church, we'd like to honor it because our art is part of our way that we worship, so we'd like to do a ceremony to bless your cathedral. Jim said sure. He had no idea that it would be followed by weeks of people protesting and saying, how dare you allow pagans in the church. The kind of hate and vitriol that he was willing to take launched his career in interfaith work. And not only that, but the Shinto were so touched by the way he stood up for them that they invited him to be the very first Christian ever to come to Kyoto and give communion in their Shinto shrine. And Joshua and I have since gone there, and you can see a very large granite stone there, and all the vestments and the things that he used for giving communion is also there, kept in the sacred Shinto shrine in honor of him. These are just a few things that tell you how remarkable this man was. So heaven knows why, when I was in my early 20s and I had not done anything of note, he decided to say yes to a young 20-something that was just beginning their journey in the interfaith world, and not only came down here and participated, but encouraged Joshua and me to begin the Memnosyne Institute. And not only did that, but joined our board of directors. And as he got older and wasn't able to make the trip to join the board, he would answer and talk about what he thought we needed to do through email. And he did that until about 2-3 years ago, at which point, unfortunately, his Alzheimer's and dementia ended up making it hard for him to make that trip. Anyway, we're going to be doing a video because the Memnosyne Institute has probably the most video footage of Jim that anyone has, in which he's talking about all the various things that are very relevant today. And we're also going to be including footage just like this that are selfie videos from people around the world that Jim had a profound effect on, and whose own work around the world is being continued in no small part because of his encouragement. So if you're one of those people, please contact me. I've been told by Reverend Chloe Breyer up at the Interfaith Center of New York that Jim was the founder of, that they think that the funeral is going to be sometime around Saturday, most likely at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine, and it will be huge because Jim's impact on this world was huge. if you are somebody who he had a profound effect on your own humanitarian work in the world, please do reach out to me. We'll be including these videos, and we'll eventually put it online for all those of you that want to understand more about this remarkable man. I know that he was working on an autobiography, and it will be sharing some of the conversations and impacts and experiences he had in this world, and I hope that you all will check in on it, because it's not every day that somebody has the kind of impact on this world that the very Reverend James Parks Morton had. So I encourage you to learn more about him, because if you're part of this world, especially here in the United States, and you benefit from having human rights regardless of your race or religion, guess what? Jim had a lot to do with that. So love to everybody out there, especially those who, like me, were touched by the beautiful life of the very Reverend James Parks Morton.